The world needs you. The real you. Fuck, you need you. The real you. The world does not need a hijacked you where you are living in the past, allowing the judge, this made up fucking judge that's based on a conglomeration of whatever bullshit you saw on television, your parents, your friends, your colleagues, whatever famous influencer, etc., etc. It's become this fucking beast inside, and we need to learn how to conquer this fucking beast because it's not you. We can't allow this judge inside to hijack who the fuck we are. So you need to do it for yourself and do it for others too. It is time. Breathe. Move. Allow. Accept. Do what needs to be done in this life. Live as authentically as you can, because we need the real you to show up. You don't have to fit into any mold. Remember, be in this moment, because it's the only thing that ever is. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the SuperF cked podcast. I have no guest today, just my voice, and if you're watching, a looping video, which I hope you enjoy. Over the years, I've found myself in varying SuperF cked states, sometimes because of OCD. Hold on, I had something in my mouth. Other times because of relationship issues or a commingling of various mental distortions. And like I've said before, it's hard to think clearly when I'm in that state. And if you've been there, you know it is too. So what I wanted to share in this episode is a note that I've been carving out, updating, editing for the past few years, titled For the Future SuperF cked State, or actually what I initially called it was For the Future SuperF cked Self, wherein I give myself instructions regarding how to think and act during that time. It's not foolproof, obviously, and depending on what you're going through and why, a different set of steps or even mindset may be needed, but I wanted to share it with you just in case it came in handy for you when you too get into that state that none of us really want to be in, and hopefully we can diminish those instances of getting into those states as much as possible. But here we are. It happens sometimes. So without further ado, here you go. For the future SuperF cked state self. So, here we are again. The SuperF cked has decided to pay you a visit, just like old times. And just like old times, a part of your brain feels like there's a wrench stuck in the gears. And it's just not letting you be at peace in the present moment. Or maybe another way to put it is that you are just not at peace in the present moment because of whatever you are identifying with, whatever story is in there, most likely on a subconscious level. So let's get to the bottom of what we can do about it. Not necessarily even get to the bottom of what's actually happening, but let's just get some things going. And we will get through this. You will get through it. But we don't know how long it's going to last. And there's no way to just push your way through it and to fight it and to be like, nope, I'm going to feel better in like 2 seconds. And I'm not going to give you a bunch of platitudes or poems from Rumi, as delightful as they are, as I know they likely won't help in this instance. Although, I have to say, that one poem about inviting everything in, it makes sense. Let things just be. Thoughts, emotions, all of that. There are a few ways to approach this, depending on what best serves you. Oh, the poem I was talking about is The Guest House, or Guest House by Rumi. Anyway, so here are some ways to approach this. 1, simply allow the thoughts and feelings to come, but continue going about your day doing what you must. 2, if it's a particularly sticky ruminative pattern, by ruminative, I mean your brain keeps on trying to rehash something that happened in the past, but with no real intent of solving anything. It's just trying to undo something, or like just rehashing something in a really negative way, and it's making you feel shitty. If it's stuck in that, it might be helpful to call up a friend or talk to your therapist. Or if you're like me, a lot of times you have to decide, is this OCD? And if by calling a friend or talking to my therapist, would this be getting in reassurance, then you should definitely not do it, because getting reassurance is a compulsion. And as we know in OCD, compulsions make OCD grow so much stronger and so much worse. That's why people with really strong OCD end up not going anywhere, because they've allowed compulsions to just take over their lives. And if that's you, I'm very sorry, but know that there is a way out of that. But that's not what this episode is about. Okay, 3, if it's something that you need to face but are avoiding, you may want to take out a pen and some paper and face all of it. Look it in the eye. Or just record whatever it is that you need to face, that which you're scared of or ashamed of or remorseful about or whatever. Now, in general, there is no need to analyze anything about what transpired, especially if you are in acute superfucked. What you can do is see and send love to the feeling within. But analyzing will only send you down a rabbit hole that will be hard to come back from, especially if you're just doing this by yourself. And you know this, and you know how much of a time waster it is if you try to analyze all these different feelings and try to do a cause and effect thing. Oh, it's because of this, and it ruined everything because of... It's just not usually worth it, in my opinion. And I think in this case, I'm mainly talking about something that has happened in the past that your brain may be attributing to the reason why you feel so horrible in this present moment. Maybe you feel horrible because of something that happened in the past. But analyzing it usually doesn't do shit for you, except make things worse. And as always, from Eckhart Tolle, realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. You don't have the past. The past is now just a memory trace. It doesn't actually exist. Furthermore, memory is very unreliable. It doesn't act like a video camera where it records all the different pixels in the right way and you can bring it up. No, memories are recreated in the moment in our brains. So they're unreliable, for one thing. And something that happened in the past is just that, a memory trace. It's just a memory. It's a story. And by God, you can actually change that fucking story. You really can, to make it whatever is useful to you, and why not? Not that you want to necessarily lie to yourself. It's good to be truthful about whatever it is that transpired. Concise, but oftentimes it gets a little bit skewed, a little bit colored by these mental distortions. So, anyway, I don't recommend analyzing what happened, but instead to actually just see the feelings, see the thoughts, try to see what the fuck is actually going on in your subconscious mind. What kind of story is there? Now, I will say, when you are out of the superfuck state, and you know when you're out of it, and you know when you're in it. But when you're out of it, then you can learn whatever needs to be learned whatever lessons you need to perhaps learn from whatever happened or didn't happen, whatever was said or wasn't said, etc., etc. Otherwise, it's just usually not worth it to try and extract lessons or anything, but to simply just be and go through whatever it is you need to go through and accept whatever it is you need to accept. Okay, let's keep going, shall we? First, let's make sure the basics are covered here. 1, are you breathing properly? I fully recommend going to Breathe with Sandy on YouTube and doing some of those exercises. It can just help you emotionally regulate. I'm not saying that it will take you completely out of the super fucked state. I found that when I'm in this super fucked state, it's not as simple as just, well, I'm going to breathe like this for a while and then I'll be set. No. Unfortunately, the super fucked is more powerful than just having a shitty day or whatever. If it's just that, if I'm in a bad mood or having a shitty day or whatever, then I can usually do one of those breathwork sessions and feel pretty damn good. But when I'm super fucked, no, there's something much stronger than even breathwork that doesn't quite pull me completely out of it. Now, to the casual listener, that may be surprising, or you may not believe it. That's fine. Anyway, are you breathing properly? What about your nutrition? What are you eating? Are you eating a bunch of junk food, a bunch of carbs and sugar and whatever? And I'm not demonizing any of it. I'm just saying, what are you putting into your body? A lot of processed foods, or I don't know, whatever it is that you know is not good for you. What about sleep? How much sleep are you getting? Are you fighting a cold or some sort of virus? I found that when I'm fighting a cold, fighting some sort of sickness, then it seems like my brain, I get super fucked more easily. And especially since I live alone, that doesn't help things. So I commiserate with you if you go through this. Okay, now if the basics are covered and you're just mentally dysregulated or emotionally dysregulated, all the dysregulation shit, then consider this. Once again, breath work, but with someone who knows how to facilitate it. Do some yoga, hot yoga, do a cold plunge, get an intense as fuck workout going. I like to do, let's say and I'm not saying you have to do this kind of shit, but helps when I just have to push past what my perceived boundaries are. I'll do 500 push-ups and 500 squats and go for a major bike ride or a run or whatever, or go for a long fasted run. Then I usually feel amazing. And if you can in the sun, that's even better. It's so good. Now, because you're in the super fuck state, you may not feel like doing any of these things. But let me ask you, are you interested in feeling better, or do you want to just continue feeling like shit? Now, according to Eckhart Tolle, when the pain body, that's what he terms this kind of state. I think the superfuck state to Eckhart Tolle would be when the pain body has taken you over. So he talks about the fact that nobody really wants more pain or to cause more pain, but if you look at the behavior and the mental patterns, it seems to be the case. So in this case, do you actually want that? And you have to start really looking at what or who is in control at this point in time. Is it the mentally aberrated part of your brain that's in control, or are you, the real you, in control? And I know that is a whole fucking can of worms because, most of our actions and behavior and thinking is controlled is on the subconscious level. So, but I'm not going to go too deep into that right now. Okay. But table that for another episode. Okay, so going back to doing some hard, beautiful things like intense breath work, yoga, a cold plunge, really intense workout. That has been one of the best things for me. Really intense one. or a long run. It doesn't have to be fasted. I like to do fasted runs. Those are amazing. That can help. But don't try and do it just with the intent of like, oh, now I'm going to feel great after it. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Okay. It's important to just, once again, be okay with whatever you're feeling and whatever thoughts are actually bouncing around in that beautiful mind of yours. That said, let's get into handling the brain. Whatever thoughts are arising, let them arise. If the feeling of anxiety is there, don't try and fight it. Or if it's fear, whatever it is, and you just don't like it, it doesn't work to fight it. It only makes it grow stronger. And also, just like I said before, don't try and analyze it. Why is it here? How do I get rid of it? And I admit, I get pissed off because it makes it that much harder for me to focus on shit that I actually want to focus on. So I get it. I get feeling frustrated and pissed off. I get very pissed off because I feel like I have a lot to give and a lot to do, things that I love in life. And this is shit that I don't want to deal with, quite honestly. And so I get pissed off. But if you've been through this, you know that getting pissed off doesn't really help at all. Sometimes I will say that I've reached breaking points where I'm like, fuck off. I just get so pissed off and I'm like, okay, what if, maybe, and this is more probably with OCD, but yeah, what if I did that? Or maybe I am a fucking murderer. Maybe I am a fucking whatever, maybe I did ruin everything. Just go fuck yourself. Fucking OCD. I get pissed off. Okay. The feelings that you have, your bodily reactions, they come from your mind. And the thoughts that arise and thoughts which are, especially those thoughts which are believed and identified with. I understand that a lot of this stuff happens on a subconscious level and you're like, what the fuck is actually happening here? But all you can do really there is be aware of the feelings. And if you know what the stories are, then see them and see what you need to change. What do you need to actually believe about yourself? How do you reframe it? Maybe that's where, a therapist will come in handy, or a good friend, or someone who can really sit with you and be present with you. And remember, you do have the power to choose which thoughts, which belief systems you do or do not engage with and identify with. And once again, for those OCD sufferers, remember, rumination itself is a compulsion. That means that you don't have to do it. It's a choice. It means when the thought comes, like, boom, thought's there. You have a choice whether to, even though it feels like it's a fucking torpedo with shit that just like latches onto your brain after it's shot into your head, you don't have to actually put your focus on it. It does feel like there is a torpedo literally that just got shot into your head though. So I get that it's like difficult. It's not easy to just be like, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to go about my day eating my fucking grilled cheese, even though there's a torpedo that just got fired into my head and is trying to burrow its way through and overtake everything. In my prefrontal cortex, overtake everything, literally. Anyway, you don't have to let that misfiring part of your brain to control what you do or focus on. Let thoughts and feelings just be. Now, sometimes things are just going to be super uncomfortable. This stuff is all key to realize, especially when your stress levels are high. Something big is coming up, a big life change. And You know, when you find yourself in that any kind of a state of fucked, whether it's super fucked or otherwise. Now, I repeat, this applies to any state of super fucked caused by any triggering obsessive thought. Now we're getting into some very personal, this is how I've experienced super fucked, and like methods, things for me to remember. Maybe they'll be helpful to blah, 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 blah. Maybe they'll be helpful to you as well. The brain wants you to think that this particular state of super fucked is unique, and that you'll never get out of it, that you've ruined everything, that you're a totally horrible, pathetic, cowardly, fill in the blank here with literally anything, person, will never feel good again, etc., ad infinitum. Remember this, the trigger itself is not relevant. And yeah, some states of super fucked run harder and deeper, but it's still the same bullshit. In the end, note to listener, by now I've gone through, I don't know how many hundreds of states of super fucked. But in each one, after the fact, I mean, some of them do suck worse than others, and you're like, oh yeah, I can understand how you would, get pretty fucked up over that. But most of the time it's just, no, you kind of overreacted. There's no need to react in that way. The brain is just like goes into this hyperreactive state. And it's almost like you're dragged unwillingly into this state of just stupid horror. Anyway, it's all the same bullshit. Don't wish for or try and push for the state of that beautiful equanimity. You know, those times when you're feeling just neither really completely excited or excitable or just off the fucking top joyful, but you're just chill. Everything is even. You're good. And people can sense it. You have a sense of acceptance, self-acceptance, self-love, and self-containment. And people love that. And it's a great vibrational state to be in, where people just kind of gravitate toward you. And I think that's one reason why I fucking hate this state so much. By the way, I've been in a state of super fucked for a little bit here, so this is very poignant for me, recording this episode, as I am currently in, and have been for, what's going on? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5 days now. 4, we'll say 4. Anyway, what I was saying is I hate being in this state because I know that it makes me, or at least I feel like, maybe it's because I'm kind of not liking myself at the moment, but I feel like I'm not as desirable to others during this time, and it sucks. But that's how it is. So we can't push for that state. We can't push for those times when you were on top of the world, where nothing was really hurting and you weren't super sad or super happy. It's just in that kind of powerful state. You get a state of like equanimity. Anyway, you can't strive for that state. It's not how it works. And especially if let's say that there's some sort of a body ache to remind you of whatever happened, then it could be a consistent trigger at that. I'm not going to go into like an example right now, but maybe someday. Then you'll have to learn how to let that trigger just do its thing and still move on accordingly. It's all just great. These are great tests to see how we can continue moving on despite these things trying to completely usurp attention, control, and all focus. And remember, rumination is a killer. Remember that the brain will really, 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 really try and analyze and even do something impossible, which is to undo the past. which is, I know, it's crazy. And how much time have I wasted thinking about all the, like, you know, just the state of wishing I had done something differently, which is such a fucking waste of time because there's no going back. There's no going back. But you don't have to let your brain take control and keep bringing you back and back and back and analyzing what if I did this, and what if there's only a lesson to be learned. And once again, I'd wait until you're out of the super fuck state to actually get that lesson, or if you can get it from a friend or a therapist, whatever. But seriously, at this point in time, you just have to learn how to accept what is. It is as it is. And I know it fucking sucks to hear that, but it is. And look, I know you're supposed to be nice, like send love to all of you, but sometimes, god damn it, it's almost like you just have to tell that fucking dick to shut the fuck up. That worm tongue part of your brain to shut the fuck up. It doesn't get to take control of your life like that. You don't have to be your mentally aberrated brain's bitch. I'm not talking saying your whole brain is like that, but sometimes it gets fucked up. We know that. My friend Carol says that I have a saucy brain. No, not saucy. Spicy. I would say that it's a saucy brain. It's a fucking spicy brain, which is great. But also it can get so spicy that motherfuck, it can make us sweat a whole bunch and feel a little bit uncomfortable, or maybe a lot uncomfortable. Accept what is, then take whatever action is needed. And yes, all of this shit makes life a little bit more difficult and super fucking uncomfortable. Well, life is pretty difficult and uncomfortable a lot of the time. As the Buddha said, life is suffering, right? But remember, especially with regards to rumination, it is a choice. You do have the capacity to choose as many times as needed throughout the day, not to allow the brain to dictate what is focused upon. And for those of you who do have OCD, you may want to think or work with your therapist to determine, is there an exposure that actually needs to be done here? So anyway, I'll do a full OCD episode. Oh, I should write that down. Fuck, let me do that right now. I don't know if any of you have read The Idiot by Dostoevsky, but in it, if I'm remembering correctly, Prince Mishkin, right before he would have seizures, he would enter into these states of euphoria, essentially. It would just be unimaginable bliss. And it seems to be the case with me, at least. Before a bout of major super fucked, I usually have a few days of just pure, unadulterated fucking bliss. It's just great. It's just, and maybe there's some bipolar going on here. I don't know. But I'm talking major bliss, and then all of a sudden, boom, the fucking opposite. That's how it seems to go with the super fucked. But here are some things that may have happened here. Maybe you just had a major blow to the ego. Maybe you've done something you're not particularly proud of. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you didn't. Maybe your brain is just telling you did. Or maybe you did, or maybe it's a repeated mistake, even though you were told so many times, oh no, you learn your lesson. You make a mistake, sure, but learn your lesson, and then never more. It's like, okay. That's still a form of just like your own interesting take on perfection. You can make one mistake, but after that, nope, fuck you. You're a fucking loser. No, I'm sorry. That's not how this shit works. Yeah, try, obviously, but sometimes we make the same mistake more than just once, and a lot of fucking times. All right. Maybe you didn't do something perfectly. Maybe you didn't do something that your brain is telling you should have. Maybe you did something that you're obsessing over and you don't even know if it's worth bringing up because of the gray area and the super fucked combo. Maybe you didn't quite live up to your ideal self. Maybe your identity has been challenged. The list can go on and on and on. Maybe you're scared that you were too nice, too mean, too assertive, not assertive enough, hurt someone, allowed yourself to be hurt, let your ego dictate action, let fear dictate action, etc. And because of these things, there are multiple. Now, because of this, I'll be forever fill in the blank again with anything, with any fear. I'll be forever anxious. I'll be forever living in fear. I'll never whatever. All these like stupid black and white type thinking, catastrophic thinking. Let's get practical here. There's no need to analyze or carry the past around. In fact, don't fucking do it. Your life is way too goddamn short for that shit. The trigger itself is not relevant. It's all the same shit, the same daggers, but decorated differently. So the brain freaks out. But life is all about how you react to it, to things. It can be in the form of a thought, something done to you, a physical symptom, a major trigger, a new trigger, old trigger, whatever trigger, a wave of anxiety about some goddamn thing. Maybe it's sexual, some health worry, some judgment on your character, some goddamn judgment, always some judgment. It's fucking endless. The self-fucking judgments. When you're triggered, simply let it be, let it flood. Do not react. Resist nothing. Let yourself sweat. Let the anxiety reach depths unimaginable. Let your mind and body do its thing, but do not give 1 inch to the fear. If it takes 1,000 times of going back to the present, so be it. Do not give in to the temptation to ruminate. You know what kind of inertia it can gain once the cycle sets in. Resist nothing except for the compulsion to wish for a different past. So absolutely resist any and all forms of wishing. This means you don't wish for anything to be different about the past, no matter what the fuck happened. I mean it, no matter what happened. No wishing for it to be different. Instead, accept it, reframe it. It's possible, probably even probable, that you're looking at it in a ridiculous way and it needs to be reframed. Rumination is such a killer. Why? Because it's a goddamn waste of time and a huge middle finger to the present moment. Talk about just fucking the present moment in the ass. How horrible of us how we do that sometime. And don't let that become a thing of like, oh, now I'm a piece of shit because I'm wasting the present moment. No, we just have to stop doing it. That's all. Be grateful for whatever happened, even if it brings shame. Allow it to be there. Enter the past, if need be, only to forgive that past self. He or she was simply living. Things and thoughts happen. Tell yourself a new story, one that is helpful, not limiting. Maybe stop listening to other people in your life who are completely just negative and to only exacerbate this type of thinking. Get the fuck away from them. Move if you have to. I'm serious. That shit's super important. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. You don't have to have a perfect life. In fact, perfection, especially when it comes to human lives, is a fucking myth. It's an imagined thing. It's a made up thing. Okay. Identify only with those thoughts and opinions from self and others that empower you. Anything that disempowers, let it go. Let it fucking go. And now I know that sometimes we do things that are not exactly something we'd brag about on live television. We'll just put it that way. I get it. And you can't just lie to yourself. Well, that's where you need to have a little bit of grace for yourself. And if you keep on fucking up in a certain way, then it's going to be an act of beautiful courage just to get the fuck out of it. And so get the fuck out. Just do what you have to do. Try and try and try to Just stop doing whatever it is that is bringing you shame. I'm not saying perfection. I'm saying just try to get to that next level of self. Because if you're like me, you can have live up to whatever your ideal self is 99% of the time, but your brain focuses on that 1% of the time when you don't. So in that case, obviously, it's about telling yourself a more accurate story, or even if it's not accurate, whatever, it's empowering. If you're truly like a psychopath, sociopath piece of shit, where you actually are willing to fuck up everybody else's life without any shred of remorse or shame or anything like that, well, then none of this matters to you because you don't give a fuck. And just go fuck off. This podcast isn't for you anyway. But for those of us who truly give a fuck and we're like a little bit too, probably a lot too self-critical, we need to really tell ourselves better stories. Okay? Okay. So identify only with those thoughts and opinions from self and others that empower. Are you truly willing to trade the precious? Are you truly willing to trade the precious moments of your day for worry over something that cannot be changed? Are you willing to risk lost opportunities and time that you will never get back because of some bullshit the thief brain has labeled as, once again, fill in the blank with whatever negative bullshit, when it clearly isn't? Remember, at the risk of death or looking like a fool or being seen as unsavory in whatever aspect, do not give an inch to the thief. None of the fucking fears matter. They actually don't. Not in this sense, with all the different psychological fears that we have. It's only because of the intense shitty feeling you have that you think this time the fears should be realized and that you need to be punished. Don't you think you've punished yourself enough? None of this bullshit narrative is worth anything in the end. When you're on your deathbed, do you think any of this bullshit narrative is worth a goddamn penny? No, not a fraction of one. None of it. Come back to the present moment as many times as needed. On a difficult day, this may mean a lot. It may mean being uncomfortable for a while, maybe a long while. Be okay with discomfort. When giving into and identifying with the disempowering and fear-inducing and shame-promoting thought patterns, it is allowing errant bullshit that is far removed from the real you to control your life. It doesn't just steal from you, though. It robs others of the real you they need. Consider this. So if you were going about your day, just making choices, doing your thing, when someone who was obviously very fear-based and even off-kilter and lazy and generally fucked up came to you and said how to act, how to feel, how to live, etc., would you listen? Would you obey them? Fuck no, you wouldn't. So do the same with that part of the brain whenever it condemns maybe somewhat like a Westboro Baptist motherfucker, or is scared so much that it wants you to curl the fuck up and not be seen. Look, it's stolen enough joy, peace, and maybe even relationships, and probably so much more in your life. You don't have to let it do that. Note, be prepared for the brain to produce a truckload of fear-based thoughts. Assumptions, catastrophic, black and white, end of the world thoughts. Let them come. You don't even know whether they're true or not at this point in time. If they are true or false, doesn't really fucking matter, to be honest. And you don't know if they'll, when or if they'll ever end, or if the anxiety will ever end. It doesn't matter. The content doesn't matter. The trigger doesn't matter. For me, the main temptation, compulsion, will be to think about how amazing it was before this trigger, how life was all perfect. Make Jeremy great again, the brain is saying. Make Jeremy great again. It tries to wish that things were different or had gone differently and remains in this. It really wants to just be in this state of non-action and of looping, if only. This is what is called insanity. It's just almost worse than insanity. Moreover, it's a waste of time, and you have no proof that it would have gone differently, or that maybe it would have been a lot worse. You don't know, and you only have right now, so you better just start embracing right here, right the fuck now. Resist nothing in practice. If a cycle has gained a minor or major foothold, so be it. Don't lament any action or non-action. Simply stop reacting to it now, as many times as necessary. Do not try and let go. For me, there's usually actually, most of the time, no need to actually journal. It's about moving on and doing what needs to be done, refocusing my attention, or simply sitting with whatever feelings are there. I mean, a big one for me is, seriously, this thought pattern. If only I hadn't done X, I wouldn't be feeling like X. In fact, this is probably at the base of most of it. But there's no need to react or identify with that patently absurd mode of thinking. That is the thought process of wishing for something that already is to be different. It's the same as saying that whatever object before you simply should not exist. But it's actually even more insane than that, because the memory of something is usually a bit distorted. So is it based on truth? Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck cares? Move, act, run, surf, hike, lift, fuck, get into some cold water. But do not wallow. Even if you feel as though you have no energy to lift a finger, you have body aches or pains because of the very thing that is triggering you, or the anxiety levels are so high it sends tremors of nerve rattles down your spine to do so, tell whatever limiting belief or victim mentality or cycle of thought to simply fuck off. Or say nothing. Let the cacophony simply play. Let it be a fucked up symphony of voices and feelings while you do what is necessary for your health and well-being. Now, focus and lean into this. None of the fucking fears matter. None of the bullshit narratives worth anything in the end. I know I said it before, but I'm saying it again and again. None of the bullshit narrative is worth anything in the end. In the construct of time, fear itself is a simple emotion, a simple tool that is now being abused by our limbic system. Think of time itself, how long we've been here. How long you are here is so mind-fuckingly short. To waste time on any of this bullshit, and yes, it is all bullshit, is unfair to you and to the world. The world needs you, the real you. Fuck, you need you, the real you. The world does not need a hijacked you, where you are living in the past, allowing the judge, this made-up fucking judge that's based on a conglomeration of whatever bullshit you saw on television, your parents, your friends, your colleagues, whatever famous influencer, etc., etc. It's become this fucking beast inside, and we need to learn how to conquer this fucking beast, because it's not you. We can't allow this judge inside to hijack who the fuck we are. So you need to do it for yourself and do it for others too. It is time. Breathe. Move. Allow. Accept. Do what needs to be done in this life. Live as authentically as you can, because we need the real you to show up. You don't have to fit into any mold. Remember, be in this moment, because it's the only thing that ever